instead of actually making the relationships work and trying.
The courtroom was cold, sterile, and eerily quiet the moment Christine's attorney opened the brown folder that would change everything. Inside were documents, not just real estate filings or tax records, but signatures, handwritten annotations, and financial transfers that pointed to a far more elaborate scheme. The entire courtroom shifted, tension crackling in the air as Judge Hartley leaned forward, brows furrowed. "Where did you obtain this?" he asked, his voice firm. All eyes turned to Janelle, whose silence said more than words ever could. The documents in question detailed what appeared to be a covert land redistribution plan executed by Kody Brown, dating back over 7 years. What made it more damning, these filings weren't disclosed to the rest of the family, not even Robin. The ink, now faded, told a story of betrayal, ownership manipulation, and signatures that may not have been as voluntary as previously thought. And buried within those pages, a clause so explosive it could force the sale of Coyote Pass overnight, even without the family's consent. It began with a series of land trust transfers. Kody, once preaching transparency and spiritual unity, had allegedly been working with a property manager under a false LLC. The name of the entity, Desert Sovereign Holdings, which was traced back to a P.O. box in Flagstaff, and more disturbingly, tied to a woman whose name had never appeared in any Sister Wives episodes or public family dealings. The silence in the courtroom was so sharp it could cut through bone. Christine looked over at Janelle, mouthing a single word, "Robin," but Robin's eyes were wide, her mouth slightly agape, and for once it seemed even she didn't know what Kody had been up to. For years the family had been told the land was being split fairly, that Coyote Pass was going to be their fresh start, but the documents indicated otherwise. Maps had been redrawn, parcels remeasured. Some lots were enlarged, while others, notably those meant for Christine and Janelle, had been quietly downsized in a 2021 amendment. That amendment, never shown to the family, never approved by vote, and signed only by Kody Brown. What followed next was the kind of reveal that sent legal analysts, tabloids, and even former TLC producers into a frenzy. Why would Kody do this? Who helped him? And most importantly, what was he planning to build? The tension that followed the unveiling of the hidden documents wasn't just courtroom drama, it was a collapse of the very foundation on which the Brown family had built their shared dream. The judge adjusted his glasses and stared at the signature line of the Desert Sovereign Holdings transfer document. It read, K. Brown, but next to it was a faint smudge, almost like a fingerprint. And that's when Christine's attorney dropped the second bombshell. "We have handwriting analysis that suggests this signature does not match the verified samples of Mr. Brown's public records." The courtroom exploded in whispers. Kody jolted up from his seat, eyes burning with rage. "That's a lie," he barked. But it was too late. The court clerk was already examining the papers, and the judge demanded a forensic review. But what the handwriting analyst found next would shatter more than the signature. It would connect Kody to a second, even more secret property. While the family was publicly debating lot divisions, Kody had quietly transferred rights to a narrow strip of land adjacent to Coyote Pass, a parcel that was never shown on the public blueprints, but was now being linked to a planned development deal. That development, a luxury RV and outdoor wedding rental space, under the name Desert Faith Retreats, LLC, and who was listed as co-owner. Not Robin, not Mary, not Christine, not Janelle, a woman named Alana D. Monroe. The name meant nothing to anyone in the courtroom, until Robin gasped. "She's the woman who emailed us in 2020 asking if we'd ever consider adding a fifth wife." Jaws dropped. Judge Hartley slammed his gavel to maintain order, but the damage was done. Christine covered her mouth. Janelle's face was pale. Robin looked utterly betrayed. And Kody, he simply closed his eyes and said nothing. As the court broke for recess, reporters swarmed outside. Speculation turned to certainty. Was Kody building an empire, not for the family, but for himself? Was the Coyote Pass dream just a decoy for a larger hidden ambition? For years, Sister Wives viewers watched Kody preach unity and faith. But the documents now painted a different picture, one of strategic moves, sealed records, and names deliberately left off deeds. Christine's lawyer summarized it best. This wasn't a division of land, this was a redirection of power. The next court session began with the kind of heavy air usually reserved for funerals, but what was about to be laid bare in that Arizona courtroom would feel like the burial of the Brown family legacy itself. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but reports from those who were present painted the scene vividly. Christine and Janelle entered together, their faces tight with resolve. Mary walked in alone, lips pursed, eyes unreadable, and then Kody arrived with Robin clinging to his arm like a shadow, her sunglasses unable to hide the unmistakable puffiness around her eyes. The judge wasted no time. "Bring in the witness," he ordered, and the doors opened. In walked Alana Monroe, slender, poised, and shockingly familiar. The room rippled with recognition, not from the wives but from Kody. His face froze. Robin's grip on his arm faltered. Alana took the stand, and when asked to state her relationship with Kody Brown, she didn't flinch. "We've been in communication since about land development, and more." The gasps were audible. Christine's jaw clenched. Janelle looked down at her hands. Robin stared daggers at the witness. The courtroom tilted on its axis. What Alana revealed next didn't just change the court case, it exposed an entire second life Kody had planned, without telling a single one of his wives. Alana presented her own set of documents, emails, wire transfers, lease agreements, all showing a parallel business infrastructure Kody had been building behind the scenes. "He told me he wanted a fresh start," she testified. "A clean piece of land, a new community, a business that wasn't tangled up in spiritual wives or TV contracts." According to her sworn statement, Kody had promised to name her as the managing partner of Desert Faith Retreats, with full operational control and a percentage of the profits from the Coyote Pass region once it was developed into an income-producing retreat, an event space. "I asked if his wives would approve," she said. "He told me they'll never know. They're too busy fighting each other." The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Robin looked like she'd been slapped. Mary let out a stunned breath. Janelle raised an eyebrow as if she'd suspected something for months. And Christine didn't cry, she didn't gasp, she simply nodded, as if it all finally made sense. Every unexplained delay, every time Kody missed a meeting or deflected questions about deed filing, every moment she'd felt excluded while being told it was just business. Outside the courthouse, reporters scrambled to confirm the story, and county records revealed a sudden flurry of activity over the past 2 years. Silent land swaps, shell companies tied to P.O. boxes, and a rental lease agreement between a company linked to Kody and a luxury yurt supplier based in Sedona. Kody Brown had been quietly building an empire in the shadows, while selling the dream of Coyote Pass as a united family effort. And now, thanks to Christine and Janelle's legal pursuit, the truth was burning under the Arizona sun. The courtroom lights seemed colder now, as if even the atmosphere had turned against Kody Brown. The judge called for a recess, but when the session resumed, it was clear the tension hadn't lifted, it had calcified. All eyes were now on Robin Brown. Her usual soft composure was gone. Her cheeks were hollowed from stress, mascara barely hiding the fatigue under her eyes. The bailiff swore her in, and when she took the stand, the entire courtroom leaned in, waiting to see if the so-called favorite wife would continue to defend the man who just moments ago had been publicly exposed for building a secret land empire behind everyone's back. The prosecution wasted no time. "Mrs. Brown, are you aware of any business or property transaction?" Kody Brown entered without the knowledge or consent of the other wives. Robin hesitated. "I knew he had plans," she whispered. "He said they were just investments. He said he wanted to build something new to support the family." But when asked if she had ever signed any documents relating to the shell companies, to Desert Faith Retreats, or the Sedona Yurt project, her hands trembled as she reached for her bag and pulled out a small fold. Inside were 3 notarized documents, all bearing her signature. The courtroom froze. Kody's plan wasn't just his, it had Robin's fingerprints all over it, and now the betrayal had a second name. Christine whispered something to Janelle, perhaps an "I knew it" while Mary sat stone-faced. Cody's eyes darted toward Robin, but this time there was no comforting glance between them. And outside the courtroom, as the news broke, Kody Brown's land trust frozen by court viewers across the nation saw the real story unfold. Not just a legal loss, but a moral defeat for the man who once called himself the head of the sister wives. The judge's gavel hadn't even cooled when the courtroom doors creaked open, revealing a forensic accountant summoned under emergency order, an icy-looking woman in gray slacks and a sharp blazer, who introduced herself only as Ms. Rath. She carried a laptop and a sealed folder, and within moments of taking the witness stand, she turned the case from scandal to a full-blown criminal suspicion. We've begun tracing transactions tied to Sunset Rock Holdings and Kody Brown's affiliated LLCs, she began, clicking her remote as the courtroom projector flickered to life. What followed was a flowchart that caused audible gasps from the spectator. Multiple businesses, some registered in Nevada, others in Wyoming and Arizona, were linked to Kody's name, several of them funneled through Robin's former online jewelry store. These aren't just assets, Ms. Rath explained. These are laundering mechanisms. Janelle leaned forward, stunned. Christine clenched her fists. The screen displayed 4 plots of land previously unknown to the family, one located mere miles from Coyote Pass, purchased quietly under a trust titled RB Legacy Estates. The implications were explosive. This wasn't just about land anymore. This was a maze of lies, contracts, and shell companies, designed not to protect the family, but to deceive it. The courtroom shifted uncomfortably as Ms. Rath continued. We discovered over $150,000 in undocumented withdrawals from Brown Family Media, LLC, routed through third-party payment processors, with no record of redistribution to the family members listed as co-owner. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, we move to initiate a fraud inquiry and expand this case into a broader financial audit of Mr. Brown's businesses. The judge, visibly disturbed, nodded gravely. Motion grant. Effective immediately, all financial records tied to Coyote Pass, Sunset Rock, and any Brown family-owned entities will be subpoenaed and audited. Kody's jaw tightened. His empire, once secured by smiles, sermons, and a TV contract, was crumbling under the weight of math and truth. Robin was now white with panic, muttering, I didn't know, I swear I didn't know. In the back row, a new observer entered quietly, none other than Coyote, one of Christine's daughters, who had flown in last minute to support her mother. She handed a small envelope to the court clerk. Inside was a notarized statement from years ago, written by Kody to the network's producers, stating, only Robin and I should be included in decisions regarding land development. The others will follow when we present a united vision. The court read it aloud. Gasps erupted again. Christine covered her mouth. Mary lowered her eyes. Janelle let out a bitter chuckle. It was written proof of intention, not spiritual unity, but strategic exclusion. By mid-afternoon, the judge called for a private recess with legal team. Outside, the media had exploded, headlines flashing, Kody's empire exposed, and Brown family court bomb land fraud filled every entertainment and news blog from TMZ to People magazine. Protesters and fans gathered with signs reading, Justice for Janelle and Christine was right. TLC released a vague statement, we are monitoring developments and stand by our commitment to respectful storytelling, but it was clear, the story was no longer theirs to script. The courtroom had become the news stage, and Kody's lines were being rewritten by those he once silenced. When the judge returned, he brought with him something Kody never expected, a directive to place Coyote Pass into judicial receivership. The property will be managed independently while the ownership is sorted out, he declared. Any further transactions, development, or planning is suspended. This land is no longer yours, Mr. Brown. It belongs to the law now. For the first time in the entire trial, Kody didn't speak. He didn't smirk. He didn't even look up. His dream had been turned into a cautionary tale, and the courtroom was now writing his legacy. Outside the courthouse, The Arizona sun scorched down on a sea of reporters and supporters, but inside, the atmosphere remained chillingly tense. Janelle and Christine were ushered into a private room by their legal counsel. What was about to be presented would shift the case from exposure to resolution. You're being offered a partial transfer of rights to Coyote Pass, their lawyer said, sliding over a new set of documents from the judge's office. The judge was willing to award them majority ownership of the land, but only under one condition: the two women had to form a joint trust to maintain, develop and eventually resell the property within 3 years. If they failed, the land would be auctioned, and any proceeds split based on court-designated equity percentages. Christine leaned back, processing the gravity. Janelle, always the practical one, nodded slowly. He took so much from us. If this is how we take it back, I'm in. But Christine hesitated. I don't want to share this land with anyone who still holds loyalty to Kody. That pause, that flicker of doubt, was the beginning of a new emotional tug-of-war. What began as a battle against Kody now threatened to become a war between Christine and Janelle, just as they were being handed victory. Back in court, Kody's attorney was hammering a final plea. Your Honor, we request an injunction. This land was meant for family legacy. But the judge, flipping through pages of undisclosed deeds, wiring records, and Kody's handwritten notes about excluding the wives from land meetings, was unmoved. Mr. Brown, what you intended was a legacy of control, not unity. The court sees through the illusion. Kody's face twisted with rage. This is persecution for being the man who kept them all fed. Robin grabbed his arm. Stop, she whispered, but her voice trembled, not from fear of Kody, but from realization. The man she had defended for years had built their life on exclusion and manipulation. The courtroom began to buzz again as the judge signed off on the transfer paperwork. The headlines outside changed instantly. Christine and Janelle win land war. Kody loses control, and Coyote Pass to be co-owned by the wives he left behind. Christine and Janelle were invited to approach the bench. The judge looked directly at them and said, "This is not just land. It's your testimony, your endurance, your right to claim what was once denied through silence." The bailiff handed them the signed papers. Janelle's hands trembled. Christine blinked back tears. For years they had asked for transparency, fairness, inclusion, and were mocked as emotional, disloyal, or ungrateful. Now they held proof that they were right all along. But Christine turned to Janelle and said softly, "You know this doesn't fix everything." Janelle replied, "No, but it finally gives us a start." In a final dramatic moment, the judge instructed all parties to vacate Coyote Pass until the official handover. Kody stood frozen. "You're removing me from my own vision." The judge didn't flinch. "No, Mr. Brown. You're being removed from the delusion that you ever shared it with them." As Christine and Janelle walked out of the courtroom side by side, the crowd erupted into applause, not just for their legal win, but for the symbolic justice delivered after years of emotional subjugation. Paparazzi shouted questions. Christine paused, looked at the cameras, and said, "This wasn't just for us. It was for every woman who was ever told to be quiet and stay sweet." And just as they stepped into the sunlight, the final twist arrived. A clerk ran up to them with a document just filed. A previously unknown property transfer had been initiated by Robin and Kody weeks prior, attempting to shift 2 acres into a trust registered under a different name before the freeze order had taken effect. If proven, this act could be classified as fraud, and it meant the court case wasn't over just yet. Outside the courthouse, Christine and Janelle were still absorbing the shock of their victory when a court clerk, breathless and pale, rushed up with a newly filed motion. "You'll want to see this," he muttered. The document he handed over bore the stamp of an anonymous LLC linked to a post office box in St. George, Utah, dated just 2 weeks prior to the court's freeze on Coyote Pass. It was a property transfer request, a signed authorization from Robin Brown, the beneficiary, RB Family Trust Holdings. Kody's signature was on it too, scrawled in haste. The land parcel in question, 2.4 acres, was the most fertile piece of the entire property, the section Kody once told Janelle they'd build the family cabin on. A private trust transfer after the court had begun hearing testimony was, at best, suspicious. At worst, it was outright fraud. Just when Christine and Janelle thought the fight was over, a paper trail exposed an illegal land grab that could send Kody and Robin straight into a criminal investigation. The judge wasted no time. Bring all parties back to court immediately. Cameras caught the moment Kody received the notice. His smug confidence dissolved into red-faced panic. Robin stood behind him, her face a portrait of terror and disbelief. "I thought you said it was legal," she hissed. Kody barked back, "It wasn't filed yet. We were just protecting what was ours." But to the court, it looked like a premeditated attempt to circumvent judicial authority. Christine's attorney stepped forward. "Your Honor, we're prepared to present evidence that this trust was created with full knowledge of the pending litigation, effectively robbing my clients of what the court had already ruled was theirs." Gasps echoed in the courtroom. The judge slammed the gavel. "Then we will hear it, under penalty of perjury." Emails were read aloud, showing Robin and Kody coordinating with a land surveyor and drafting documents under a shell corporation. One chilling message from Kody read, "Let the court do what it wants. They won't even notice what we've secured under RB Holdings." Christine turned pale. Janelle whispered, "He never intended to share it, not 1 inch." The courtroom murmurs intensified. The judge, face stern and voice ironclad, announced, "This court hereby issues a temporary injunction on all Brown family properties, pending investigation into unlawful transfers. If fraud is proven, criminal charges will be filed." Kody stood motionless. Robin broke down in tears. Back outside, news vans now carried 2 breaking headlines. Brown family land war erupts into criminal probe, and Christine and Janelle's win could send Kody to jail. Christine addressed the press, holding the court papers with shaking hands. "This land was never about greed. It was about justice. And this proves what we were really fighting." Janelle nodded. "It was always a scam. From day one, we just didn't want to believe it." Meanwhile, back in the courthouse parking lot, Kody slammed the car door shut. "I gave these women everything," he shouted to no one. Robin stared ahead, silent, tears falling. The cracks in the facade were no longer emotional. They were legal, irrevocable, and undeniable. And as night fell on Coyote Pass, a new sign stood in the soil. "Profra, under court control trespassing, will be prosecuted." Kody Brown, who once dreamed of a kingdom built in the Arizona desert, had been evicted, first from the hearts of his wives, and now from the very land he swore was his legacy. But the fallout has only just begun.